would like to acknowledge Mr. Randy Humble has come in. He was also a member of the tree panel, which we introduced previously. So welcome and thank you for being here, sir. And I'd like to recognize Mr. Roach for the President's report.
Commissioners, as a way of introduction to today's report, let me first start out with reminding you of your December presentation by Mike Patterson, who is also with us today in the back of the room. So if you have any lingering thoughts about that presentation, he's here to answer those. But I want to remind you that his presentation in December was on electric reliability and what we have done over the years to try to improve reliability. As you'll recall, several years ago, the board set a metric with the goal to drive this organization to have more reliable power and, by definition, fewer customer minutes without power. And since we've had that metric, we've reduced that to about half. The preponderance of Mike's presentation went into the methods that we have used to do that, whether it be through technologies or new systems, new ways of evaluating, restoration techniques, all the efforts that we've put into restoration and to improve reliability. He also told you that one of the major components of outages is trees, or our trees. And he deferred to this presentation the issue of our vegetation management program because we wanted to have a more full presentation on what those efforts have been and how important it is to reliability. So that in context is we've had a presentation in December. This presentation focuses on the contribution of vegetation management to reliability. And in doing so, I want to say that we timed this such that it would be our 1-year anniversary of implementing the recommendations that we got from the Tree Trim Policy Review Panel. That panel, as you know, in 2010 spent an inordinate amount of time providing us with the guidelines and the roadmap to create an implementation plan. And we came back to you in the fall of 2010 and said we intend to implement the majority of those recommendations, I think all but 4, and we have spent this past year in that implementation. I will tell you that any good plan is as good as the implementation is. So I will say that the plan that the panel recommended to us was incredible, and I hope that you will see we have made that kind of commitment to the implementation to make sure that that time was well spent. I want to give you this notebook that all of you should have in front of you, and if anyone in the audience wants one, they're on the back table. This is our official year-end report of implementation of the Tree Trim Policy Review Panel recommendations. I want you to please turn to page 31. The first section in this report actually is the narrative of what all we have done. And Liz Hanna will, in a moment, do a presentation that summarizes that activity. But the reason I want to point you to page 31 is to remind you of who was on the Tree Trim Policy Review Panel, and then also to introduce to you the Vegetation Management Oversight Panel. That is a group of internal people who meet monthly. I attend those meetings. Bill Elmore attends those meetings. All these people on this sheet attend these meetings. And the reason for that is to ensure that our implementation stays on schedule, that it has the highest level of priority in our organization, and those are meetings that we consider essential to make sure the organization remembers that this is something that we expect high performance on. This is a method we used with PACE 10, and it has turned out to be very successful to keep us on time and on schedule. So we have implemented this same type of oversight for the vegetation management program. The way this works is we meet monthly, we have broad representation, and everybody has deliverables they come to that meeting with. And they know in advance what those deliverables are. We go around the room, and if something hasn't been met, and there's accountability for that. We also talk about the next month and the next quarter, what goes ahead. One of the things that we have done over the past year to make sure that the board has stayed informed is to send you quarterly reports. Those would be behind tab 2 in this notebook that you have received today. In addition to that, behind tab 1, you will have the actual recommendations that the panel gave, what our response to that was, and an update on the success of implementing those issues. So that actually tracks what the panel recommended. The narrative in the front section is the dialogue along how we've done it. I would tell you that we are on schedule. Work is ahead of schedule. We have completed our phase 1 and phase 2 items, with the exception of one item that we are still working on that Liz will give you more detail about. And I, for one, will tell you the results have been incredibly positive. They've been, I hope, positive for the customers and the people in the field. I know they've been incredibly positive for us. We're much more organized, much more focused, much more effective, and I think it's a win-win for the customers and for this organization, the way we're operating today as compared to in the past. When we came back with an implementation plan, we took the panel's recommendations and grouped them into 4 major categories. These are the categories you have here. This is how we presented it to you when we started our implementation. I will tell you that these categories have worked very well for us internally, and today Liz will make her presentation on the basis of these 4 categories. So I'll recognize Liz Hannah to do the presentation, and I would encourage you to ask her questions as you go. It's important for you all to have a good feel for what we've accomplished, and if you have any questions or suggestions, we certainly welcome those.
Good afternoon. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today and talk about our program. It's a program that I work with every day, so I am happy to talk about it. As we get started, we'll be talking about the work as organized in those 4 categories. But the first thing that I want to do is bring your attention to our new customer guide. It's included in your report behind Appendix 3. It should be the first thing under Appendix 3. And the reason I want to bring it to your attention first is because I'll refer to it several times throughout my presentation. It's one of the most important customer communication materials we've developed through this process because it includes the information about our program in one place. So I'll be referring to that. The first area that we're going to take a look at today has to do with the pruning standards, the way the trees are pruned, and then customer options for determining how that work is performed on their property. As the panel recommended, we've continued to follow the ANSI A300 pruning standards, which include the use of lateral pruning. We do realize the lateral pruning technique is not familiar to everyone, so this new customer guide, starting on page 26, includes a section of photos, and those photos illustrate more clearly what lateral pruning looks like when it's used to maintain trees near utility lines, which is obviously much different than how trees would be pruned for landscape purposes. So we hope that these new photos help customers better understand what those results look like on the front end. We also looked for ways to reduce the amount of pruning, and we've made some changes there. Our crews today are following new standards for reduced clearance around certain components of the electric system and also for certain types of trees. Our foresters work out in the field to proactively identify slow and low-growing tree species, and also at the request of a customer, we'll go out and evaluate those trees to determine if it's appropriate to prune them for less clearance than our standard clearance. We've made changes to our policy for the removal of limbs that reach out above our power lines. As the panel agreed, we continue to remove any limb that reached out over our high voltage 69 kV transmission lines because those lines are of critical importance in providing electric service. But for our other types of lines, we'll leave limbs that are healthy and established above those lines as long as they are healthy and don't possess other characteristics that would indicate to a qualified arborist that they have a high potential to break and fall on the electric lines. So that policy change effectively extends the benefits of our special status tree program to most healthy trees on our system. And I'll come back to that special status tree program in just a minute. While lateral pruning is the healthiest method for pruning trees, we do understand that the results are not always attractive, especially when you have a tree directly under the power lines or in very close proximity. That can require significant pruning. Therefore, we feel like it's really important to offer a variety of options to our customers. The new customer guide includes a section that spells out each option that's available to our customers. And we've worked to expand those options. We've also worked to communicate that customers have the option to ask us to be present when we perform that work on their properties. One of the options that's available to our customers is to ask to have a tree removed if it requires pruning by KUB, and a lower growing, more appropriate tree planted on the site instead. And today we're in the middle of our first tree planting season since we implemented improvements to our tree planting program. You have a copy of the new tree planting program brochure also in your packet. We've made several changes to that program. In the past, we offered only 6 types of trees. Today, we offer 11 different varieties of low-growing trees and 4 types of ornamental shrubs for our customers, and all of that's illustrated in the new brochure for them. The brochure also highlights an option for a customer if they'd like to donate their tree to a public planting rather than having it planted on their private property. The tree planting program brochure is under Appendix 3. I don't think those pages are numbered, but it's back at those doors. We're happy to have options to offer our customer, but we do need to ensure that we communicate actively and clearly about what all those options are. So again, that customer guide comes into play, having it available. Our foresters carry these in the field, so they'll have them available during those one-on-one discussions with our customers. It's available on our website as well. Our foresters use a new checklist so that when they have a customer they're working with, they can use that checklist to be sure that they've covered each option that's available for the customer and document that they've done so. So a review of those checklists on the back end helps improve our oversight and make sure that we're covering things well with our customers. We have a variety of written agreements so that we can clearly document when a customer chooses an option different from our standard pruning. And we've implemented bi-weekly forester meetings so we can improve our communication, consistency, and oversight of the program. Another one of the panel's recommendations is that we increase the level of pre-planning. Pre-planning is a process by which our foresters will walk along the electric system. They'll walk along each span of wire and look to see what is in the trim zone. They'll itemize all the work that needs to be done and create crew instructions for the tree crews. And during that process, they'll knock on the door and see if they can make contact with the customer to discuss options for that work. Currently on our system, we've performed this process on approximately 400 miles of electric line each year. And as shown here in the chart, this year our foresters have attempted to contact more than 6,000 customers through that process. As I said, they will knock on the door and see if someone is available to talk with them. If they're not at home, the foresters will leave a door hanger offering an appointment for the customer to follow up and the forester to come back out and talk with them. So through those efforts, we're successful in reaching about 30% of the customers who we attempt to contact, either by telephone as a follow-up or them being at home or requesting a follow-up appointment. Last year, we also committed to communicate better to let all customers know they have the option to request that type of appointment with our foresters. So in the areas where we're not going door to door, we do mail a letter, and that letter outlines the option for the customer to call into KUB and ask to speak with a forester before the work is performed on their property. So we analyze the data to have a better understanding of those interactions. This first pie chart is last fiscal year, and this one is this fiscal year to date. Our analysis shows us that about 2% of the customers to whom we mail those letters call in and ask for a consultation with a forester before that work is done. And we analyze those interactions to see what type they were, what nature they were, so that we have a better understanding of those interactions with customers ahead of work. That analysis shows us that the majority of those customers have called in because they're interested in having a tree removed while we're in the area or having a tree pruned. The other customers have called because they have a general inquiry or they may have a concern about the upcoming work. But in addition to encouraging all customers to call and make an appointment with us if they have a concern about upcoming work or just want more information about that work, we maintain a database of all customers who have expressed a past concern, or also customers who we need to coordinate access with. If they have a locked gate or we know in the past they had dogs in the yard and we needed to schedule that work with them, We maintain that database because those customers to us are of critical importance for us to make direct contact with them ahead of time, let them know that we're going to be back in the area, and that we'd like to meet with them and talk about the upcoming work. Over the last calendar year, we've attempted to contact about 450 people from that database.